Dr. Hoffman said, my presentation is titled Fugue Rather Broad, and it's going to be a brief history and then an analysis of the third movement of Hindemith's Symphony in B flat. Now, my freshman year, the Belmont Wind Ensemble performed the first movement, and then last semester, the Wind Ensemble performed the entire symphony. And when I listened to the last movement, I just told myself I had to find some way to analyze it, so I chose it for my senior theory project. So let's start with a little bit of history. Paul Hindemith was born in 1895, and he died in 1953. Now, he was born in a medium-sized town of Hesse, Germany, and then he moved on to the States later on in his life. Not only was Hindemith a composer, but he was also a violinist, violist, teacher, conductor, and music theorist. And one of the biggest things about Hindemith is his influential figure in music during the 20th century regarding harmonic treatment and development and music education. Not only did he restrict himself to just one type of genre, but he wrote several different types of pieces. He wrote operas, ballets, piano pieces, symphonies for orchestra, solo literature, sonatas, and more specifically, symphonies for concert band. So what I'm going to talk about primarily today is a symphony in B flat, which premiered in Washington, D.C.'s Departmental Auditorium on April 5th, 1951. And the band that commissioned it was the United States Army Band, and they performed under the direction of Hindemith himself. And after the initial performance, it was praised by numerous newspapers. Musical America said great things about it. Paul Hume from the Washington Post, which was a famous music critic during the 1900s, wrote great things about it. And what I have on the right side of the screen is a snippet from the review of Jay Walsh from the New York Times. And he says, providing the climax of the program, the Symphony in B flat for concert band turned out to be Major Hindemith. Its three movements ranged from Bronzium sweep in the first movement to intricate and finely articulated fugal voicing in the third. The tonal texture was constantly rich while continuously changing in color. It was a work that gave Captain Curry's Confident Corps a real lift. So Symphony in B flat relates to Hindemith's later compositional period, the neoclassic period. Now, music scholars have categorized his periods into three different types. He goes at the beginning from his early period where he started experimenting around with instrumentation and genres, and then he moves into his second period, which was his neo-Baroque period, where he starts incorporating Baroque-type music into his compositions, and then finally his neoclassic period. Now, the piece is written in three movements, but technically it fulfills the classical four-movement style. The second movement begins with a slow movement, but then it transitions into a scherzo. So if we use our music imaginations and divide the second movement into two sections, we do have the classical four-movement style. The entire symphony uses counterpoint and theme integration to provide a unifying structure in the symphony, and I found out that Hindemith's third movement is the best example of this. So the third movement is titled Fugue Rather Broad, and it's written in three sections, which is kind of a part of Hindemith's sectional writing, which I'll discuss during the later part of the lecture. The symphony revolves around the number 3. I started seeing a lot of 3s going on while studying the score. There's 3 movements, 3 sections to each movement, and then there's always 3 levels of activity going on within the movement. And I'll discuss that later on also. Now, Section A presents Fugue 1, and then Section B will present Fugue 2. And Section C is a combination of Fugue 1 and Fugue 2, so we have a double fugue going on. Now, Hindemith wrote his themes in limited length in the subjects of Fugue 1 and Fugue 2 to allow maximum flexibility for the double fugue in Section C. So what I did to start off the analysis is I decided to map out the entire section of the movement. What I have is, I'm going to have fun with this. What I have is measures where expositions, episodes, and second expositions happen, also transition themes, what themes are being used in each section, and sometimes in Section C we have both theme 1 and 2 being used. And then the key areas, which typically stay in B flat, but towards the end of the piece we have some E flat and B flat bitonality going on. So what I'm going to do right now is play the beginning section of his third movement. first section of Hindemith's third movement. Now, so section A presents fugue 1, and it has an 8-bar subject, but I divided the 8-bar subject into 2 separate phrases. Now, phrase A, interestingly enough, only